Society sees the mistress as either a foolish victim or a cunning predator. The victim, who believes his promises and waits for years, wasting the best moments of her life. Or the predator, who coldly and calculatingly steals a man from his family, destroying someone else's happiness for her own gain. Both of these images are convenient, easy to understand, and evoke strong emotions, pity or hatred. But the truth is, most of the time, she is neither. The truth is far more complex and uncomfortable for everyone involved in this triangle. In most cases, the woman in the role of a mistress is the director of a drama, one where she reaps psychological rewards and benefits the wife could never even dream of. And today, we are not here to judge or justify anyone. We are going to do what no one else does. Like impartial surgeons, we will dissect this role and see what's inside. We will break down her three main sweet benefits that bind her to these relationships more tightly than any promise, and the three hidden psychological scripts that compel her to choose this exact position again and again. What you are about to learn will forever change the way you see infidelity. But before we uncover these three sweet benefits, I must warn you, this truth might be unpleasant. If you're ready to face it, like this video right now, so I can see we have brave people here. And if you're new here and not afraid of depth, subscribe, because from here on, it only gets more intense. And before we begin, I'm curious about our geography. Please write in the comments what city you're from. Let's see who is with us today. Part 1. The psychological roots. Why her? To understand why an adult, often intelligent and successful woman, voluntarily agrees to a supporting role, we have to discard simple explanations like she just fell in love. The choice of such a specific role is almost never random. This isn't about love. It's about a deep, internal script that was hardwired into her subconscious long before she met this particular man. And to understand the root cause, we must venture into the darkest and most controversial corners of psychology, to the place where Sigmund Freud first dared to look. He argued that most of our adult dramas are merely echoes of our childhood tragedies. And in the case of a woman who pathologically chooses unavailable men, the trail almost always leads back to one figure, her father. Imagine a little girl for whom her father is the first and most important man in her life. He is a king, a god, the center of her universe. But for some reason, this king is unavailable. He might be emotionally cold and distant. He might be constantly working, giving her only scraps of his attention. Or most importantly, he is already taken by another woman, her mother. The girl sees that the most important man in her life doesn't belong to her. And so she enters her first unconscious battle for his attention, for his love, for his validation. She competes with her own mother. In this childhood battle, she, of course, loses. She cannot win. And a powerful, unresolved issue is formed in her psyche. I fight for the main man, but I don't get to keep him. Years go by. The girl grows into a woman, and then she meets a man. Smart, interesting, high status. But there's a catch: she's married. And in that moment, her subconscious screams, bingo! This is it, the exact same script. Once again, there is an unavailable king. Once again, there is the other woman, the wife, to compete with. And her psyche gets a chance to play that same game all over again, but this time to win. And this is where logic is powerless. Rationally, she might understand everything. But emotionally, she is a prisoner of that little girl inside her, who desperately wants to prove to the ghost of her father that she is worthy of his love. Her unconscious goal isn't the man himself. Her goal is to rewrite the ending of that old childhood play, to destroy her rival and prove that this time the grand prize will be hers. This is why such relationships often end as soon as the man gets a divorce. The moment he becomes available, he loses his sacred value. The game is over, and she no longer needs him. But while Freud sought answers in the childhood bedroom, his student, Carl Gustav Jung, went even deeper. He introduced a concept without which it is impossible to understand the psychology of a mistress. That concept is the shadow. Every one of us has a shadow. It is our dark side. It's everything we don't accept in ourselves and hide from society. Our selfishness, our aggression, our unrestrained sexuality, our lust for power, our envy. Everything that is considered bad and improper. The role of a wife, a mother, a good girl, is a role flooded with the light of social expectations. A wife must be caring, understanding, faithful, and put the family's interests above her own. She is forced to suppress her shadow, to lock it away in the deepest cellar of her soul, because the expression of the shadow threatens the stability of the marriage. But what happens to this shadow? It doesn't just disappear. It builds up, presses from within, and demands release. And this is where the role of the mistress becomes the perfect, legitimate outlet for the shadow. It is her personal theater, her sanctuary for her dark side. In this role, she is allowed to be what a wife cannot be. Here, she can be a selfish person who thinks only of her own pleasure. She can be capricious and demanding. She can express unbridled sexuality without thinking about chores or children. She can enjoy her power over a man, knowing that a single word from her could shatter his world. For many women, this becomes a taste of intoxicating freedom. In her normal life, she is a responsible employee, a good daughter, a decent person. But in these secret affairs, she can finally unleash her inner demon without destroying her social image. She lives in two realities, so to speak. In one, she is the bright, proper version of herself. And in the other, the shadow reality, she gets everything she's afraid to even admit she wants. And it is this very contrast, this chance to be whole by living out both light and darkness, that creates an incredibly powerful addiction to this role. Part 2. The 3 sweet benefits of being a mistress is now that we understand the deep psychological foundation underlying this choice. Let's move from theory to practice. Let's look at the prizes a woman receives in the role of a mistress. These are 3 powerful, non-obvious benefits that make this role so tempting, despite all its social toxicity. The first, and most obvious benefit, is all the fun. None of the work. The mistress doesn't get the whole man, but his best, filtered demo version. She gets him at his peak, when he has broken free from routine, leaving behind problems with the mortgage, a sick child, and a bad mood. He comes to her for a celebration, and he himself becomes that celebration. Let's conduct a thought experiment and look at the same day through the eyes of the wife and the mistress. The wife's morning begins with getting the kids to school, making breakfast, and getting ready for work. She sees her husband sleepy, perhaps irritated about an upcoming meeting. Their dialogue is about logistics. Pick up the dry cleaning. We need to pay the electricity bill. We're visiting my mother tonight. This is a reality woven from hundreds of small have-tos. And what does the mistress see? She gets a text from him at noon, counting the minutes until I see you. She gets ready for the date, chooses a dress, filled with anticipation. He comes to her in the evening, already rested after work, showered, and full of energy. He brings flowers or a bottle of wine. Their conversation isn't about problems, but about emotions. He admires her, shares his successes, and complains about how he's misunderstood at home, highlighting her uniqueness. He is completely focused on her. She receives a concentrate of his attention, his resources, his passion. The wife gets his mundane, real version, with all his flaws and obligations. The mistress gets the glossy, polished version. She doesn't wash his socks, listen to his snoring, or see him tired and apathetic after a long day. She gets only the cherry on top of the cake, while the wife has to deal with the entire cake, including the layers, the frosting, and the bill from the bakery. And this perpetual celebration, this life lived like a trailer for a perfect movie, is an incredibly powerful drug. It provides an illusion of a carefree existence that is so lacking in the real, adult world. The second benefit is far more subtle and dangerous. It's power without responsibility. This is perhaps the most potent and intoxicating aspect of her role. Think about it. The mistress holds immense, almost absolute power over the man's life and his family. Yet she bears no legal or social responsibility for the consequences of her actions. She is the gray cardinal in his kingdom. With a single text message sent to his phone at an inconvenient time, she can trigger a chain reaction that could destroy his marriage. With a single whim, a single threat to reveal everything, she can make him do things he doesn't want to do. She holds the detonator to a bomb planted under his family's home. And this feeling of control, the sense that you can pull the strings and manipulate the fates of others, provides an incredible feeling of personal power. The wife, on the other hand, bears full responsibility. She is tied to her husband by shared property, children, and social status. Any step she takes, any conflict, has direct and often severe consequences for herself and her children. She is within a system where every action creates a reaction. The mistress, however, is outside this system. She is an external element, an observer who can intervene in the game at any moment, flip the chessboard, and simply walk away untouched by the wreckage. This position allows her to feel above the situation. She is not a participant in domestic dramas. She is their director. She doesn't have to think about the future of his children, his financial well-being, or his emotional state after a divorce. Those are all his problems. Her area of responsibility covers only her own feelings and desires. It's maximum selfishness, taken to the absolute. And for a woman who feels weak or insignificant inside, this illusion of total power becomes the main purpose of the relationship. And finally, the third benefit, which operates on a purely biochemical level. It's the emotional roller coaster as a drug. Our brain is wired to react much more strongly, not to stable, constant pleasure, but to intermittent, unpredictable reinforcement. This is the principle behind all gambling and social media. And it is this very principle that underlies the addiction to being a mistress. Stable, healthy relationships provide a steady, calm happiness. It's pleasant, but over time, the brain gets used to it, and the intensity fades. A relationship with a married man is a roller coaster. One moment he's there, and it's a peak of euphoria, a surge of dopamine. The next, he leaves to be with his wife, and a low follows longing, waiting. And the longer the wait, the stronger the next surge of joy will be when he reappears. The very atmosphere of secrecy, risk, and adrenaline is a powerful stimulant. Clandestine meetings in hotels, messages that must be constantly deleted, the fear of being discovered, all of this keeps the nervous system in a constant state of tension. Life turns into a spy novel where she is the main character. Against the backdrop of this high-stakes thriller, ordinary relationships, walks in the park, watching TV series together seem unbearably boring and bland. She gets hooked not so much on the man himself, but on this biochemical cocktail of dopamine, adrenaline, and cortisol. She becomes addicted to the drama. She needs the contrast between the agonizing wait and the brief, brilliant flash of a meeting. Like a gambler, she bets her time and her emotions, hoping to hit the jackpot another dose of these intense feelings. And like any addict, over time she loses the ability to find pleasure in anything simple and healthy. She needs a bigger and bigger dose of drama to feel alive. Part 3. The Three Faces of a Mistress, a classification of hidden escripsees. Important to understand that behind these general benefits, there are always specific personal scripts. Not all women enter this role with the same motives. Based on psychological practice, we can identify three main, most common archetypes. These are three different women with three different internal dramas who have found a way to solve their problems through the role of a mistress. By recognizing them, you might see familiar stories in a new light. The first archetype is the eternal girl, or the runaway. This is a woman who is terrified of adult life on a primal gut level. For her, marriage, family, children, and a mortgage are not symbols of happiness, but frightening attributes of responsibility, routine, and boredom. She is stuck in an adolescent state where she only wants celebration, ease, and adoration. Without any obligations, this woman's inner monologue sounds something like this. I want love, but I don't want problems. I want male attention, but I don't want to wash his shirts and listen to his mother. I want passion, but I don't want domesticity. A relationship with a married man is the perfect compromise for her. She gets all the perks of a relationship romance, sex, gifts, emotional support, while completely avoiding the downsides. She is essentially renting a man for a few hours a week, using him and then returning him to his owner, the wife, who will deal with all his real problems. Such a woman doesn't seek to take the man from his family. On the contrary, the very fact that he has a wife is a guarantee of her safety. As long as he's married, he won't demand anything serious from her. He won't propose, won't suggest they live together, and won't insist on meeting her parents. This protects her from the intimacy and responsibility that terrify her. She is a perpetual tourist in the world of relationships, enjoying the sights, but never planning to stay anywhere permanently. Her biggest fear is not that he won't leave his family, but that one day he will show up at her door with a suitcase and say, I got a divorce, now we can be together. At that moment, her fairy tale would end, and the adult life she so desperately ran from would begin. The second archetype, a complete opposite of the first, is the energy vampire or the huntress. While the runaway flees from drama, the huntress creates it and feeds on it. Her main goal is not the man himself, but the emotions she gets from the process of fighting for him. Her fuel is jealousy, suffering, competition, and ultimately, the triumph of victory. Her inner world is a battlefield. She has a vital need to constantly prove her superiority to herself and the world. And the easiest way to do that is to win in a competition with another woman. For her, a married man is not just an object of desire, but a valuable prize that already belongs to someone else. And the very act of possessing this prize, even temporarily, gives her an incredible self-esteem boost. She will consciously or unconsciously provoke drama. She might accidentally leave a trace of herself in his car, call when she knows he's with his wife, or ask to meet on their wedding anniversary. Every bit of the wife's jealousy, every conflict in his family, is like a balm to her soul, a confirmation of her power and importance. She enjoys not so much the time spent with the man, but the thought of how his wife is suffering right now. It's cruel, but it's true. She asserts herself by humiliating another woman. The man in this scheme is just a tool, a means to an end. Once he leaves his family and is entirely hers, he often becomes uninteresting to her. The game is over, the enemy is defeated, the drama is dried up. She has won her main prize, she proved she is better. And now she's bored. That's why these women, after destroying one family, often find a new victim, another married man, to start their favorite thrilling game all over again. And the third, most complex and ambiguous archetype is the healer or the rescuer. This woman genuinely believes that her mission is to save a poor, misunderstood man from his horrible shrew of a wife. She sees herself not as a homewrecker, but as a noble savior, the only ray of light in his dark kingdom. Her inner monologue is full of pity and self-admiration. Poor thing, how does he live with her? She doesn't appreciate him, doesn't understand him, doesn't inspire him. Only I know who he really is. Only with me can he be himself. My love will heal him, and we will be happy. She revels in her role as the one and only, the one who could see his sensitive soul behind the mask of a tired family man. The man, of course, actively plays along with this narrative. He complains about his wife, tells her they've been strangers for a long time, how he's not appreciated. This allows him to shed responsibility and appear as a victim of circumstances. And the rescuer gladly accepts this version of events. She doesn't want to see the truth that he chose this woman himself, that they have a shared history and children, that he's not as miserable as he claims, would shatter her illusion of her own. SPECIALNESS. This trap of self-deception is the most dangerous one. The rescuer can live for years in anticipation, sincerely believing she's doing a good deed. She spends her energy, her resources, her time healing a man who, in reality, has no intention of changing anything. She thinks she is building a future, but in fact, she is simply servicing the comfort of a man who has conveniently settled himself between two women. Her need to be needed and significant is so great that she is willing to ignore the obvious facts, clinging to the illusion of her grand destiny. This kind of ruthless psychological breakdown is the foundation of our channel. We don't look for easy answers. We dig down to the core. If this is the approach you've been searching for, now is the best time to subscribe and become part of our community. Part 4. The hidden cost. The inevitable PYBH, sweet the benefits may be, or how convincing the internal scripts may seem. This role always has a dark side. There is a huge hidden price that a woman pays for her celebration. It's a bill that life will, sooner or later, present to her. And this bill has two main items: total emotional burnout and a frozen future. The first thing she encounters is a slow but certain emotional depletion. Her life turns into a perpetual waiting mode. She waits for his call, his text, his brief visit. She can't plan her evenings, her weekends, her holidays. Her entire life is subordinate to his schedule, his availability, his mood. She is a satellite revolving around someone else's planet, never having an orbit of her own. Imagine her New Year's Eve. Friends are celebrating with their families. Social media feeds are filled with pictures of happy couples by the Christmas tree. And she is sitting alone in her perfectly clean apartment with a bottle of champagne and a phone in her hand. He promised to call right at midnight, but he didn't. And she sits there, listening to the silence, making excuses for him. He probably can't. His wife and kids are there. And this is how all the holidays go. Valentine's Day, her own birthday. They are always overshadowed by this background feeling of loneliness and of being second class. This state of constant uncertainty, of being perpetually on standby, slowly burns out the nervous system. The constant swings from hope to disappointment destroy her self-esteem. She begins to feel that her own life has no value. The only moments that have value are the short ones when he is with her. The rest of the time is just an intermission, an emptiness that must somehow be endured. This leads to chronic anxiety, apathy, and sometimes deep depression. The second item on the bill is social isolation and a frozen future. A relationship that must be hidden places her in a social vacuum. She can't introduce her man to her friends because she's ashamed or because they would judge her. She can't bring him home to meet her parents. She can't post a photo of them together online. Her love, her feelings, are a state secret that must be constantly guarded. Because of this, she begins to distance herself from her loved ones. She has to lie, to be evasive, to make up stories. Over time, her social circle narrows down to just one person, him. She becomes completely dependent on a man who will never fully belong to her. This creates the illusion of incredible intimacy, but in reality, it is a trap of isolation. But the most terrifying part is time. The years go by. While she waits for him to finally make a decision, her friends get married, have children, build their homes. Her own life is on pause. She misses the chance to meet an available man with whom she could build a real, open relationship. She spends her most valuable, irreplaceable resource, her youth, her fertility, on a person who is building his future with someone else. And one day, at 35, 40, or 45, she might wake up and realize with horror that the train has left the station. He never got a divorce, and she is left alone, with nothing but a baggage of empty hopes and lost years. And that is perhaps the highest and most cruel price she pays for the illusion of love and power. Conclusion: stepping out of this HAD. So, what do we see in the end when we strip away all the masks and discard the banal cliches about love and heartbreak? The role of the mistress is not a position a woman takes out of love for a man. It is a complex psychological diagnosis that she gives herself. This is not a story about a relationship with another person. It is a story about her tangled, unfulfilled, painful relationship with herself, with her past, and with her inner demons. She is an actress who voluntarily agrees to star in a play, written from the script of her childhood traumas. A play where she tries, again and again, to win over the unavailable father, to prove her superiority over the mother, and where the man himself is nothing more than a prop, necessary to trigger this eternal drama. She takes the stage to live out her shadow for a short time, to be selfish, powerful, desired, but she does so in someone else's play, on someone else's territory, in time stolen from someone else's life. And it's crucial to understand that this play has no happy ending. It's not written into the script. The goal of this internal mechanism is not to win and get the man, but to endlessly replay the process of the struggle itself. Because it is in the struggle that she feels alive. It is in the drama that she finds validation of her importance. That's why even if she wins and the man leaves for her, the system breaks. The play is over, the prop is no longer needed, and a devastating emptiness sets in. She is left one-on-one with the very inner void she was so desperately trying to fill with this relationship. But it would be a mistake to place all the responsibility solely on her. This triangle is always a symbiosis, a toxic system where each participant gets their own benefit. The man in this scheme is no innocent lamb. He finds exactly this type of woman, one who is willing to play a supporting role because it perfectly serves his own fears and desires. He gets admiration, passion, and celebration without bearing full responsibility for it. He gets the chance to feel significant and desired without leaving his comfort zone. He is the director who has found two actresses for two different, but equally convenient, roles. This is precisely why understanding the true psychology of the mistress provides a key, not just for her. For the wife, it is an opportunity to see the situation not as a personal failure, I'm not good enough, but as a symptom of her husband's deep-seated issues and another woman's internal conflicts. It's not about her, it's about them. For the mistress herself, this is the only chance for salvation. A chance to realize that she is not living her own life. She is living a borrowed life, on borrowed time, feeling borrowed emotions. And the only way to win this game is to quit. To stop fighting for someone else's prize and start fighting for herself. Stepping out of the shadow doesn't mean winning the man. It means leading herself away from this destructive script. It means turning to face her fears, her pain, the little girl inside who is still waiting for her father's approval. It means starting to build her own life instead of trying to squeeze into the corner of someone else's. This path is long and painful, But it is the only path that leads not to a dead end, but to real, not surrogate, happiness. And now, the main question for you, one that requires an honest answer. We've dissected many motives and self-deceptions. What do you consider the most dangerous and destructive self-deception in the role of a mistress? Perhaps you've observed it from the outside, or maybe it has been a part of your own life. Write your opinion in the comments. Let's create a true encyclopedia of human experience under this video.